Phosphor Dot Friends, Earl at thelogbook.com. We're not playing homebrew today. I know that's gotten to be the pattern in recent weeks, but we are playing something else today that, after seeing yet another fairly recent news report of yet another copy of Menavision's Air Raid cartridge fetching an insane price at auction, I thought, you know, everyone talks about getting their hands on this cartridge and how much money it's worth to have a copy of it in physical form. Has anyone played the game? That's kind of what I want to know. What I want to know, boxed, reasonably complete copies of this game keep going for like 30 grand because they're so rare. And what I want to know is, from a gameplay standpoint, in, you know, this kind of post-physical media world that we live in, is this $30,000 worth of game? And just the number of lousy collision detects that I have experienced inside of, you know, about a minute worth of gameplay there tells me, no, this is probably not worth 30 large. So, let me tell you what we do know about this game. The company that released it, Menavision, released it in a format that isn't proper NTSC, isn't even proper PAL. No, those are the two predominant video systems. And where that figures into it is the number of lines on the screen that you have to take account for drawing the graphics, and then do your computations between the bottom line and the top line. So your computations for things like collision detect, score, and so on, that happens in, you know, the fraction of a second that it takes between the bottom line of the display being drawn and then the top line of the new frame of the display. And this happens even on older hardware like this. This happens faster than you can think about it. But the video system affects that because PAL has more lines than NTSC, even for, you know, big dirt pixels like this. Yeah, I've got shots just passing through stuff harmlessly. You're gonna have to forgive me. I'm just not seeing 30 large worth of exhilarating gameplay. It's very much a variation on a theme of Space Invaders. I keep seeing that weird vertical burst. Yeah, like you see the vertical lines occasionally. Right there. So, not an expertly programmed game, and part of the reason for that is probably that on a code level, someone at some point kind of disassembled the game and found that it was basically riding on the back of code that Gary Kitchen wrote for US Games Space Jockey, which is a game that we have covered before on Phosphor Dot Fossils. And Space Jockey is an okay game. It's not a, sorry Gary, it's not a barn burner of a game. It did some interesting things visually, but not really anything terribly new in terms of gameplay. So it's kind of odd that if you're going to hack, basically you're going to make a hack of a game, you're hacking Space Jockey? Really? Both of the complete copies known to exist sold for over 30 grand each. That is, it has the box, it has the cartridge, it has the instruction sheet. Even a loose cartridge went on eBay some time back for $3,500. Now, this is due simply to the scarcity of boxed copies of the game. I really find one of the things that got me out of collecting physical media, as far as video games for the most part, aside from really one system, which is the Odyssey 2, and the only reason I still get physical media for that game is because I already had, a significant, virtually the entire library in cartridge form before the homebrew thing started on the Odyssey 2. And so it's kind of a question of, well, why not? Okay, so their collision detects with me are merciless. My shots just occasionally fire around. Good to know. Good to know. I've never seen the instruction sheet for this game, so I don't know if there is some storyline justification for that. It is just kind of lousy. Definitely not seeing 30 large worth of gameplay here. Things like this really kind of trigger me on the level of collecting physical media versus just playing the games. This is emblematic of what I gave up collecting physical media for. It's like, okay, let's just play it. Emulation for the Atari 2600 and quite a few other systems like the Apple II, the 5200, the 7800, the NES. Emulation has evolved enough since emulation started happening in the 90s. Emulation is good enough to play these games now without the original hardware if you do not have the space or the inclination or the budget to collect original hardware and play on that. I'm sure there will be some people who want to argue with me on that. And that's fine, but for, someone at my budget level, because I still have to work for a living, I don't know. I got into a point where I was collecting stuff that was like, a 4 or a 6 or an 8 on the Atari Age or digital press rarity scales, and finding that it was indeed a rarity for a rare game to be worth it on the gameplay angle, where there was more thrill to it than just, ooh, I've got the box now. So this really just kind of proves the point that the rarity of the physical media does not mean necessarily that there is a good gameplay experience waiting on the other end of it. We can play this game perfectly in emulated form, and it's just kind of meh. What's the internet word for it? Meh. That's all there is to it. Okay. And I realize that I am saying this from a room full of things that are still in the original packages, that I have chosen to prioritize collecting those over collecting physical media video games. And I've got some games over here as well that just aren't necessarily in the camera shot. But to me, if you are not addressing if it's any fun, you are kind of missing the point. Just my very opinionated opinion there, but stuff like this, stuff like Menavision's Air Raid, and seeing people splash out enough money for this that they could also get a really decent new car. I don't know.